100 days on from the new prime minister's sort of premiership, it's hard to see any progress being made. And so increasingly what you're seeing are Iraqis saying, you know, this is not the change that we want. And many of them are preparing, for example, to begin demonstrating, to go to the streets. I think a lot of them have realized that you can't really bring about change, political change, through the institutions that they currently have. And that's why sort of protests and other types of demonstrations are perhaps a better vehicle to having your voice heard.
And is corruption a key issue in terms of people's kind of feeling disenfranchised from the elites?
It's the issue. I mean, if you look at the emergence of the protest movement, one of the key slogans was the terrorist equals the corrupt. And this came out at the peak of ISIS's sort of dominance in Iraq when it was controlling up to a third of the territory. So they equate the corrupt leaders to the Salafi jihadi organizations like ISIS.
And on the kind of point of ISIS, in end of 2017 and throughout most of 2018, leaders around the world were talking about the complete destruction of ISIS, you know, losing all of their positions of power, both in Syria and Iraq. What kind of threat do you think the organization, if at all, still poses in Iraq?
Well, ISIS as a network has always kind of existed, but it's a dynamic organization. So what's very clear is, you know, since 2017 and the last few years, it's gone underground. It has lost most of its territory in Iraq and in Syria. But the key question here is whether the roots that led to ISIS have been addressed. Until now, I mean, those roots, if you think about it, have to be the political process. Do citizens, do Iraqis, do Syrians, do they feel that there is an alternative form of representation, alternative forms of government that can bring them in, that they feel represent them? Until now in Iraq, and we don't see that yet. And the consequence of that is, to some extent, a resurgence of ISIS in some areas. And where is ISIS resurging? It's resurging in the areas where the state has yet to re-emerge. So these are the provinces of Kirkuk, Salahuddin, Diyala. You're seeing hundreds and thousands of fighters re-emerging. Not that many incidents yet, because they are very underground and they have been sort of hit quite hard over the last few years. But, you know, conflict in Iraq operates in cycles. And so it's not the first time that this very same network has gone underground, and they're anticipating to come back at some point. And when they look at the central government in Baghdad, they see the mess and they say, we've seen this before, this is a good opportunity.